Hello there, I'm a day late reviewing 1984's Locke the Superman. As a child of the 70s and 80s, I grew up watching cartoons such as the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, Rocky and Bullwinkle, the Super Friends, Spider-Man, Johnny Quest, Thundar the Barbarian, the Herculoids, Space Ghost, He-Man, G.I. Joe. You get the idea. Now during that time, Japanese animation was starting to penetrate into the American market. Speed Racer, Star Blazers, Battle of the Planets, Voltron, and probably most importantly, Robotech. As a child who loved Star Wars and Star Trek, the Japanese had much better selection of animated sci-fi. Plus the stories tended to be a bit more mature. Of course in the 70s, videotapes and VCRs were unheard of except in very rich households, so if you didn't see it broadcast live, then you didn't see it. The 80s were a much better time, as prices on VCRs came down, and the idea of owning a movie and being able to watch it when you wanted to, and not having to make time to catch it live on TV, swept the nation. Now the price of owning a movie was actually fairly high, but you could tape it from a live broadcast, or you could rent it from a video rental store for a nominal fee. Blockbuster Video was the red box of that time. Now initially we didn't have a Blockbuster Video, but there was Salzer's Video. Man, that place had a great selection of stuff. And that is where I discovered their animation selection and found Locke the Superpower. Locke the Superpower being the name of the original VHS release. As I have since found out, Locke the Superpower was the highly edited version of Locke the Superman, cutting almost 30 minutes of the movie due to nudity, language, and graphic violence.
Bogus!
It's been close to 25 years since I've last seen the movie, on VHS no less, but I have fond memories. So let's check it out and see how it stands up. We open with one of our primary characters, Colonel Yamaki, an agent of the federal government, doing research on our protagonist, Locke. Turns out that Locke has fought for the federal government in the past. Not only that, Locke is an Esper, someone with extrasensory perception. Normally that would refer to things like telepathy and remote viewing, but this is 80s Japanese animation that we're talking about, so as we will see, people will be able to teleport, create laser beams, force shields, and even melt metal, all from the power of their minds. So Yamaki goes to Locke's homeworld to see him. Why? Well, the federal government is interested in the activity of Lady Khan. She is a multi-millionaire who has set up several universities across the galaxy in order to train Espers. This is where we hit our first speed bump in the story. There is no instigating event to get the government's interest in Lady Khan's universities. Something like an Esper being bullied by some normal humans and losing their cool and killing a number of people before they are put down by the authorities. They then discover said individual had attended one of Khan's universities. Afterwards, you have a government official saying something like, "Gee, these Espers are quite dangerous. Is this what they're teaching them at Khan University? And just how many of them are there anyways? We better look into this." But nothing like that happens. The government is interested just because. We wouldn't have a story otherwise. Now Yamaki is very interested in the universities because he has sent several agents to infiltrate them to find out what is going on, and they've all disappeared. Yamaki and Locke talk for a while, and as it turns out, Lady Khan had asked Locke to join one of her universities 17 years ago. She wanted his help in creating the 1,000-year Reich made up of Espers. Yamaki is gratified to hear that Locke refused to join, as he says the federal government wouldn't stand a chance against an army of Espers led by him. He then asks Locke if he would help the government against Lady Khan. Locke says no.
Bogus!
Yamaki is shocked. How can the great hero of the galactic federal government say no? He reminds Locke of a number of battles that Locke fought in that helped to save the Federation, which kind of begs the question, just how many times does Locke have to save the Federation? And of course it doesn't occur to Yamaki that maybe, just maybe, Locke has seen more than his fair share of war and is done with it. Yamaki says his goodbyes, and then he leaves. He returns to his hotel in the city, and we see an assassin who is waiting to ply his trade. Yamaki gets to his room, and he sees a bomb and manages to dive out of the way of the blast. The assassin then arrives. The two have a history, and the assassin is back for payback, as he lost an arm on the prison planet he was sent to. He shoots and wounds Yamaki, and is moving in for the coup de grace when Locke arrives and uses his powers to put up a protective force field around Yamaki. Locke then makes short work of the assassin. Locke then heals Yamaki and agrees to help him. Cut to the planet Denal and one of Lady Khan's universities. Here we find Professor Ramses, the headmaster of the school, telling a class of female Espers that they are the master race and will one day rule the galaxy and create a paradise, but first they must train for that day. Next we are introduced to another of our main characters, Jessica. As we will come to find out, she is a rare Esper that can neutralize other Esper's powers, and she is being trained to kill Locke, the one person that Lady Khan fears could thwart her plans for galactic rule. Professor Ramsey uses telepathy to talk to Jessica to test her abilities. He asks her if she can sense where he is. She does so, and he is impressed with the progress she is making. He then tells her to return to her studies. An alarm goes off and Ramsey answers the summons of Lady Khan. Lady Khan warns that Locke has joined with the federal government and that they need to accelerate their plans with Jessica. Instead of 2 months, he now has 2 weeks to get her ready to take on Locke. Later that night, we see Ramsey and his team using a psychic probe to plant false images into Jessica's memory. She begins to have a nightmare of witnessing her parents' assassination at the hand of Locke and several goons. An unknown amount of time goes by, and Ramsey and Lady Khan are discussing Jessica's progress. And Lady Khan is pleased, and she says that she is sending another guru to help finish with the training. That guru is Cornelia Prim. Cornelia is there to teach Jessica how to develop her powers to neutralize other Espers. Cut to the asteroid Khan. Here we find 2 Espers in a combat room taking on several automated weapons platforms. They have no trouble defeating them. Once they are done, Cornelia shows up, asking them if they want to try something that is more of a challenge. They go to an observation room and see Jessica struggling with the simplest of tasks, causing 2 lights to go out. They laugh that she isn't much of an Esper, but Cornelia warns that Jessica needs real combatants to make any progress. They laugh and say sure, we'll go easy on her, and Cornelia warns that Jessica is more powerful than she appears. Cornelia then enters Jessica's training room to tell her that she is doing well and that she is ready for the next step in her training. And if she does well here, then she will be ready to serve Lady Khan. Jessica is thrilled. All she wants to do is be of service to Lady Khan. Cornelia steps out and the lights dim. Suddenly Jessica is rocked by several energy blasts. She uses her powers to detect where the other Espers are and sees the 2 Espers. Before she can do anything, she is sent flying by another barrage of energy bolts. Once again, she uses her power to detect the other Espers, but this time she has a flashback to Locke killing her parents. Enraged and panicked, Jessica unleashes her powers and sends the 2 Espers flying backwards the length of the training room, where they are killed by the impact with the wall. Traumatized by the flashback, Jessica vows to kill the man who killed her parents. Cornelia rushes in to tell Jessica she did a great job, that she will be of great value to Lady Khan. And as the 2 dead Espers are taken away, Cornelia mourns their loss, but rationalizes that it was for the greater good. Next up, Planet Siren. Here there is a computer that manages all the logistics for the Federation army in the sector. With it gone, the Federation will have a hard time organizing any sort of defense against Lady Khan's machinations. The Esper commandos make quick work of the automated weapons and the normal human guards, but then run into a small problem. Deep in the base is a Federation Esper, and he uses his powers to stop the commandos. Cornelia then calls on Jessica to work her magic. Jessica sends out an energy bolt and fries the Federation Esper's brain. Yamaki and Locke are on a star cruiser heading for the planet Lawnwall to investigate the location of Lady Khan, when news of the attack on the base at Siren reaches them. Yamaki is called back to Earth, and he takes a shuttle back to Dinal to catch another ship back to Earth, while Locke is to continue on to Lawnwall to search for Lady Khan. Which brings me to my second problem with the story. Locke has already told Yamaki that Lady Khan is wanting to create a millennium, a kingdom that will reign for 1,000 years. Why hasn't Yamaki notified the Federation, and why haven't they activated whatever military forces they have to destroy the schools? If they are worried about taking on Espers without having Espers of their own, there's always the tried and true method.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Later, on Dinal, Yamaki is waiting for a shuttle to arrive to take him to the cruiser that will take him to Earth, when the shuttle goes out of control and crashes near the base he is at. The cruiser then leaves orbit without him. We then cut to Cornelia and another Esper named Manu talking. Apparently they have done something to cause the shuttle to crash, and another pair of Espers have caused the cruiser to leave. Yamaki investigates the shuttle crash and finds a woman nearby. It's Jessica. He takes her to a nearby hospital and waits for her to regain consciousness. When she awakens, she has amnesia and doesn't remember what happened. Meanwhile, on Lawnwall, Locke makes it to Khan University and questions Ramsey about Lady Khan's location. Ramsey tells Locke that Lady Khan is on her private asteroid, but he won't give its location. He then tries to kill Locke. Locke teleports out of the way of the laser blasts and appears behind Ramsey and tries to grab him. Ramses runs into another room and Locke follows.
It's a trap!
There are 2 combat espers waiting for him, and they have the power to create illusions. Locke sinks into a psychedelic river, but he senses the other espers and breaks the illusion as they are sneaking up on him and just about to run him through with their swords. Locke easily takes them out and sees Ramsey in the room with a gun pointed at him. Locke causes the gun to malfunction and it blows up in Ramsey's hand. Locke then telepathically rips the location from one of the combat espers' mind.
Excellent!
A hologram of Lady Khan appears and asks Locke to join her cause. And even though he told us at the beginning of the movie that Lady Khan was trying to create a 1,000-year Reich, he asks what she's up to.
What?
And once again, she says that she's going to create a 1,000-year Reich, ruled by espers, and bring peace to the galaxy once the old corrupt system is gone. Locke refuses to join her side, and Lady Khan says, "So be it, die!" And the university starts to burn. Back on Dinal, Jessica is put under a probe to try and break her amnesia, but without success. She can't remember anything from before the shuttle accident. As that is going on, Lady Khan and Cornelia have a discussion about Jessica. They reveal their plan to have her by Yamaki's side when Locke returns. Seeing him will trigger her memories and she will kill Locke. We return to Dinal again, and we can see the first steps towards a budding romance between Yamaki and Jessica as they flirt. Jessica tells Yamaki that the doctor gave her a name since she couldn't remember hers. She is now Emilia. However, before anything can happen from all the flirting, Yamaki receives a call that another cruiser has arrived to take him back to Earth. Yamaki tells Emilia goodbye, but that he hopes to see her again soon. Cut to a bit later on the cruiser, and Emilia is brought before Yamaki, having snuck on board the ship. She says she did it because he is the only person that she can count on. Yamaki is thrilled, but also kind of reticent because he feels that he's taking advantage of her due to her amnesia. Several days pass and Yamaki has been avoiding her due to his guilt over her amnesia when she comes to see him. She asks why he's been avoiding her, and he stammers out of, "I haven't been avoiding you." Emilia takes it that he isn't interested and flees his rejection, heading to the shuttle bay. Yamaki chases after her and tells her that she has it all wrong. She makes it to the shuttle bay, which oddly enough, none of the crew are watching, and locks the door behind her. She then manages to open the shuttle bay door and activate the shuttle. Fortunately for her, even though the shuttle bay has a door, it must also have a force field to keep the atmosphere in, because she and the rest of the contents of the shuttle bay aren't immediately sucked out into space. Yamaki screams that he's going to break the door down, and Emilia hears a thud against it, and then everything is quiet. She turns off the shuttle and goes to see what happened. Yamaki, genius that he is, used his head to ram the door and is laying on the deck with a nice-sized hematoma on his forehead. She takes him back to one of their rooms, and Yamaki professes his love for her. Later we see Yamaki back on Earth, and he receives news that an insurrection has taken place on the world of Meyer, and the Federation government has been overthrown. Several other planets in that sector are now flying anti-Federation flags as well. The sector map shows that Lady Khan's forces have claimed quite a bit of territory. Making matters worse, the Federation government is run by a bunch of idiots who have pulled their forces out of the sector to a staging area on the planet Lawnwall because they don't want to start a war. As if they aren't already at war. As you may recall, Locke was, and still is, on Lawnwall, as it was where Lady Khan University was located. And when a Federation ship loses navigational control and plummets towards a large city, Locke appears and uses his powers to divert it to land in a relative safely away from the city. This is witnessed by Cornelia and her hit team, most of whom are very impressed. All but one. He thinks that Locke will now be weakened from using so much power and will be easy to kill. Cornelia has her doubts, as Locke was able to break the illusion of Ramsey's bodyguards, and no one had ever been able to do that before. No, this is what they have trained Jessica to do, and so she forbids any of the others to try and kill Locke, and they all teleport away. Locke is walking back to the city hoping to catch a ride to Earth and meet with Yamaki when he senses an Esper nearby. It was the one that thought Locke would be easy pickings now. Turns out this Esper is a powerful telekinetic, and he uses his powers to throw boulders at Locke. Locke uses his powers to either dodge out of the way or to destroy the rocks, but several do hit him and he is injured. The Esper then sends a very large boulder to crush Locke. For a moment, it looks like he is successful.
Bogus.
But then, the earth beneath him opens up and traps his leg. The boulder that crushed Locke then rises into the air, and Locke stands up, power radiating around him. The other Esper is shocked. This is impossible. Locke demands to know where the asteroid Khan is. The Esper is about to talk when a beam of energy hits him and disintegrates him. It's Cornelia and the rest of her team of Espers. Locke chastises her for killing one of her team, and she says that he disobeyed orders. She asks Locke to rethink his position, to join the Millennium, but he refuses. She and her team send an energy wave at him, and Cornelia orders the others to get ready to retreat. Another Esper asks why. There are 6 of us, and he is weakened. Locke then stands up and demands to know where Asteroid Khan is. The Espers are stunned. How is this possible? They then teleport away while they can. Back on Earth, Yamaki and Emilia are spending time together, and Yamaki proposes to her. Just as they are about to kiss, Yamaki's comlink goes off and he is called away yet again. Just outside Yamaki's apartment, Locke is waiting. Their reunion is cut short when Emilia opens the door saying that Yamaki had forgotten something. She sees Locke, flashes back to her parents' death, and immediately attacks him. She wounds Locke, and as she goes in for the kill, Yamaki jumps in the way and he is impelled by multiple shards of glass. Horrified, Emilia turns her powers against herself and becomes catatonic. Later, in the hospital, Yamaki asks the doctor what's going on. The doctor has no answers for him. Locke then stumbles in. He is still very weak from the attack. Locke explains that Emilia is an Esper named Jessica who was discovered 15 years ago by Lady Khan. Lady Khan could sense the power within Jessica, and so devised the plot to assassinate Jessica's parents using someone disguised as Locke. Lady Khan then had Jessica's memory of the attack suppressed for some reason. This is not explained, only to have the memories brought back recently to help activate Jessica's powers to neutralize other Espers. They then arrange for Jessica to meet up with Yamaki, knowing that he and Locke would eventually reunite, and then Jessica could kill him. Yamaki is heartbroken. If this was all a plot to kill Locke, then it means that Emilia wasn't real and didn't love him. He refuses to believe that. He knows that she loves him. He then vows to kill Lady Khan for doing this to them. Locke asks Yamaki for a ship. He has read the location of Asteroid Khan from Jessica's mind.
It's showtime.
The two are then on a ship headed for their showdown with Lady Khan. They arrive at a star designated K176. It is giving off more radiation than a normal star, so much so that they can't detect Lady Khan's base. The sensors on the base, however, detect the Federation ship and they send out several ships to attack. Somehow, Lady Khan's forces manage to get behind the Federation ship undetected and they launch their attack. In the ensuing battle, they discover Lady Khan's base. Yamaki wants to pull back, worried that innocent people will be hurt, as if there are innocent people on an enemy base. Locke, for his part, heads to a viewport where he can see the base. He is about to teleport over when Yamaki notices that Locke is no longer in the control room and goes looking for him. He finds Locke and insists that Locke teleports the both of them. Locke agrees and teleports them both over to the base. Outnumbered, the Federation ship leaves, heading for a rendezvous point with the nearby Federation fleet to bring back. On board the base, Locke and Yamaki begin to search for Lady Khan. They come to an enormous room containing several Holy Mothers and ask where Lady Khan is. The Holy Mothers refuse to answer, and Yamaki is about to try something a little more persuasive when Cornelia and her team shows up. She asks Locke to take the fight elsewhere, as the Holy Mothers are non-combatants. Cornelia then makes the observation that if Locke is here, that means that Jessica failed and wonders if she is dead. Locke tells her that Jessica is comatose after turning her powers against herself. This enrages Yamaki, who blames Cornelia for Jessica's condition, and he charges at her. Cornelia sends an energy bolt at Yamaki, but Locke shields him from most of the blast. Yamaki is stunned and Locke teleports away. Which is an interesting strategy, because in the time that it takes to give the others instructions on what to do, Cornelia could have also sent another blast at Yamaki, killing him and taking care of a potential threat to the Holy Mothers. Instead, Cornelia tells two of her team to follow after Locke, while she and the others head to the base's power core to protect it. It turns out that for some reason Locke is heading for the power core, and en route he takes out 80 Espers by the time he gets there. At one point he turns off the lights to save money on the effects budget. Cornelia is astonished. 1 versus 80 and Locke is still going. Still, she and Locke fight, with Locke eventually getting the upper hand. He then reads her mind to get the location of Lady Khan. Once he has that, he teleports away. He makes his way to Lady Khan's lair, and it turns out that, surprise, surprise, Lady Khan is a computer now. She has transferred her consciousness to it, and so now will live forever. Locke creates an energy sword to destroy the computer, and Lady Khan says that if he does, the base will fall into the sun, killing all aboard. Locke does it anyways. With the computer destroyed, Locke senses the location of the real Lady Khan. Locke melts the door to her secret chamber and finds Yamaki on a table with a laser pointed at his head. Lady Khan informs him that if he uses any of his powers in the rooms, Yamaki will be killed. Lady Khan also says that she has evacuated the Holy Mother since the Federation has a fleet headed for the station. Lady Khan then begins to monologue, but before she does, we see that Cornelia is outside the room listening to the conversation. Lady Khan bemoans the fact that Locke has killed 80 of her combat espers, and Locke tells her that he only put him to sleep. She then says that it doesn't really matter because once he is dead, she won't need combat espers anymore. This is shocking news to Cornelia. Lady Khan brags that half the galaxy is already under her control. Once she wins the war with the Federation, then she, the Holy Mothers, and a handful of normal humans will be left, and so will begin her millennium. She then reveals her true form.
Evil!
She is a cyborg now, with her head and torso suspended in some fluid and sitting on a tank-like chassis. It rolls ever closer towards Locke, and several spikes shoot forward from the chassis. For some reason, Locke simply stands there and lets her impale him several times.
What?
Locke falls to the ground and Lady Khan is about to finish him off when Cornelia steps into the room. She is none too happy about having been deceived by Lady Khan. She sends an energy blast at Lady Khan and blows up the cyborg. With Lady Khan dead, the station starts to fall towards the star. Locke tells Cornelia to wake the espers that he put to sleep and gather everyone in the power room. She does, but once they are all gathered, the power core shuts down. One of the espers freaks out that the ship is going to be incinerated without the force shield, but then realizes that they are not melting. Another esper senses that Locke has created a shield to protect the ship. Cornelia teleports to Locke's side and asks what they can do. Locke says they have to have the other espers use their powers to lift the station away from the star. He will hold his shield for as long as he can, but the others need to lift the station up. Cornelia teleports back and relays Locke's instructions. At first it seems to be working, but then the station begins to break up and 3 of the 4 sections drift out of Locke's shield and are vaporized. The remaining section then falls back towards the star. The jolt from the base breaking up wakes up Yamaki. Cornelia teleports back to Locke's side to ask what they can do. Locke is unable to answer this time as he is using all his strength to maintain the barrier. Yamaki asks what's going on, and Cornelia sets him free and gives him the lowdown. He runs out into the computer room to read what the situation is with the station. He decides that since the station might come apart heading away from the star, that they will simply increase speed and head through it, seeing how it is mostly hot gas and they should be able to exit the other side. Lost in this insanity is how the ship will survive pulling away from the other side of the star as they exit, since the base won't tolerate pulling away from this side of the star. But damn it, something must be done. So they head into the star and are making a decent headway when Locke's force shield starts to weaken in one area. Cornelia teleports to the room where Locke's shield is failing and uses her power to force the hot plasma back outside. Another section opens up and catches her unaware, and she is consumed in the fiery inferno.
Bogus.
The base then makes it out of the sun and back into space again. Yamaki returns to Locke's side and tells him that he no longer needs to maintain the force shield. Locke wants to know where Cornelia is. Yamaki explains that she teleported away when his barrier started to weaken. Locke scans for her and sees that she is injured. He teleports to her side. She's wounded but not dead. Locke uses his power to heal her, and together they use their powers to heal Jessica and make her the Emilia personality that fell in love with Yamaki again. Later back on Earth, Locke and Yamaki are talking about what will happen to Cornelia. Yamaki says that she will in all likelihood have her memory modified so that she won't remember being a combat esper and wanting to overthrow the Federation. Yamaki then returns to Emilia's side and smashes his comlink when it alarms again and stays by her side. As for Locke, he goes to see Cornelia post-memory modification and she doesn't recognize him. It looks like there's no happy ending for our hero. The end. Well, there you have it, Locke the Superman. I had fond memories of it, but upon seeing it again, it was hard to overlook all its flaws. This is a big story and it really needed more time to be told correctly. As it is, we go from Lady Khan as training espers to her controlling half the galaxy in the span of 2 hours and only see the espers attack a single Federation logistics base and then later a brief battle on another world without any sign of espers at all. At least there were no signs of esper powers being used. The rest of the time is spent hunting for Lady Khan and trying to figure out what her plan is, even though Locke told Yamaki her plan at the beginning of the film. And then there's the Federation's insistence on ceding territory because they don't want to hurt innocents. It's a war, for crying out loud. Just because only one side is waging it doesn't mean it isn't happening.
Please, step out of the car.
You think if maybe we ignore him, he'll go away?
Please, step out of the car.
Guess not.
And if you cede enough territory, you will eventually run out of places to go. Or why didn't they take the fleet that arrives on Lawnwall and send all of it with Locke and Yamaki to K-176 instead of just a single ship? Half the galaxy has fallen to Lady Khan, and the Federation is worried about upsetting her, for Pete's sakes.
What?
And then there's Lady Khan. Her final plan is to wipe out most of the galaxy and have a few surviving humans mate with the Holy Mothers. This will in fact weaken the Esper's bloodlines as they introduce non-Esper DNA to the mix. At least initially. She couldn't save any Esper men to mate with the Holy Mothers? This would be similar to Hitler announcing that he's going to wipe out most of the Jewish people, only to save a few for when the war is over, and mate them with his Aryan females to create a new line of super Germans. Yeah.
Right.
All I can say is the script needs some work. The animation itself is fairly standard for the time period. I can't say there are any standout designs or artwork in it. It gets the job done, but can be rather blah at times. I will say that if you watch the movie, do so with the subtitles on, especially during the English dub. They are similar, but the subtitles have more context and detail to them.
Humans look down on espers. It is our ambition to free them from this habit by conquering and ruling them and bringing eternal peace to the universe.
And?
Everything is all right, isn't it?
Yes, even the doctor believes that Jessica has amnesia. The hypnotic suggestions will not become conscious knowledge until she meets Locke.
Let me remind you that Locke will return to Yamaki one day. And then Jessica herself will be working with Yamaki again.
Don't worry, it will be fine.
It was directed by Hiroshi Fukutomi, best known for this, Cat's Eye, and Battle Angel. It was written by Atsushi Yamatoya, based on the manga by Yuki Hijiri. Now, IMDb says that he is best known for some risque Japanese movies, but I did see that he also wrote a number of the Lupin III films. I couldn't find a listing for the English dub actors, and I don't speak Japanese, so I didn't watch the original language version. The original full-length movie has some nudity and bloody violence in it, so it isn't for young children. The only rating I could find is from IMDb at 6.1 out of 10, and I think that's fair. The basic story is interesting enough, it just needed more time to be told properly. As it is, it's kind of a midland film. If you're into anime, you might want to check it out just to be a completist, but otherwise, I'd say it's safe to give it a pass. Once again, thanks for watching. Until next time.
It's one small step for man.
Now cut that!